Okay, hey now. Good morning, PSW staff and clients and friends. Join us for Film Scoring Monday, the best part of the week, right? Or Friday is the best because we get to see your results, so that's always a pleasure putting those in. Great job on Jules and Jim last week. That was so much fun to that very important scene. It's such a great symbolic scene of not just the French New Wave like we talked about, but also how freeing it is just to race your friends or your friend on a bridge. And that's part of youth, right? We're never too young to do that kind of stuff. So it's just such a freeing, fun scene. So I hope you enjoyed that. Today will be nothing like that because I like to mix it up. So today we're going to look at a little movie that maybe you've heard and talk about a fun scene in it. And today, yes, we're going to be looking at the 1977 film Star Wars. I assume you guys have heard of Star Wars. This is not like Truffaut's Jules and Jim. This is made a little bit more money. This is the first one, but it's the fourth episode, right? A New Hope. So we know George Lucas, right? He's 77 years old today. Not today, but now he is. And American filmmaker, right? American, screenwriter and producer and entrepreneur. I mean, best known for probably Star Wars, but did a lot of some other great stuff, and also the Indiana Jones franchises. He, along with Spielberg and Coppola, those guys were very influential. This is science fiction, right? But it's not a movie about the future. So what he explained, and this was really revolutionary because, we think of like George Lucas as, very commercial and very all that kind of stuff, and that's true. There's nothing wrong with being commercial, but he had a real vision, because now we see Star Wars and we think money, box office, and all that stuff. But when he came out with this movie, nobody saw that. Nobody really believed in that. He was thinking very differently, considering what the time was going on. We've done so much film history, so much films. With the '60s, we know the new Hollywood system, movies more for adults, Polanski and filmmakers that were, Dennis Hopper with Easy Rider. They were pushing boundaries here, especially by the '70s. By the '70s, we really get explicit content, vulgarity. I mean, everything is just out there. So that's what's kind of popular in the '70s. Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's really crazy stuff. So for somebody to say, well, I have a movie, about space, about a space opera, that's what they call it, because it takes place in space, but it's mostly, about regular feelings, romantic feelings. It's kind of like a Disney movie in space. Nobody wanted to do that. So that's really revolutionary thinking on George Lucas's part. He said at some point, like, if you can tap into the mind of a 10-year-old girl, you can make a fortune in this business, because they're the ones that, will buy the product and all that stuff. So easy for us to see now, okay, a space movie, but really crazy to think about that. We always have to think about, well, was that as easy as we think about, as we think it was? But no, they actually did a lot of struggle. And what he wanted to do was to kind of take Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon was a very popular space opera as well, comic strip. It first came out in 1934, all Alex Raymond stuff, and they wouldn't sell him the rights to Flash Gordon, so he said, I'm going to make my own Flash Gordon. I always like these stories too, right? Because when somebody says no, or when there's limitations, it forces you to be creative and say, well, I'll create this. And he did. He wrote the script, and he spent so much time developing these characters, and he used his own money, because after, his first one was THX 1138, but then his real hit came with American Graffiti, 1973, about his youth in Modesto. And because of that success, because that was critically acclaimed and got 5 Academy Award nominations, including Best Director, he had a little bit of clout, and so they were like, okay, fine, we'll fund your little space opera movie, whatever that's going to be. But it was very minimally funded. I mean, he got like $140,000 to write, direct, produce it. But he was smart because he said, well, I'll take the merchandising, so 40%, give me that of the merchandising proceeds, and turned out to be a great idea. Of course, back then they were like, well, no one's going to buy toys. People don't buy toys for movies coming out. I mean, that's a huge, again, this is 1970s thinking. These are executive producers saying, okay, fine, if you want 40% of it, that's fine. Well, he got the last laugh, of course. I mean, but he also used his own money from American Graffiti, so this was kind of low budget in the sense. It ended up costing about $11 million to make, but I mean, it made about $700 million, and it continues to make money. And he got because some of this looks very much like Space Odyssey 2001, Kubrick's movie, right? Several years earlier. So he did hire some of those designers because, that looked like the real thing or better than the real thing. So we know the plot of Star Wars. It's pretty, Princess Leia is held captive by Darth Vader, and so Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, and friends, Han Solo, they go and rescue her. And the scene we're going to look at is the cantina scene. This is a fun scene. This is what I want to score. I'm not going to have you score the opening credits. I thought about this a year ago because I was like, it would be a cool experiment to score the opening credits with the text scrolling with a different theme. But that was just an idea. That's something to think about too, but that's not the assignment. But because it's so iconic, the score and the text, it'd be kind of funny to hear it with some other different music. But I thought we'd look at the space cantina scene, or the cantina scene. This is on the Tatooine Island, which was filmed in Africa and Tunisia, but inside it was filmed in England in a studio. And the music in this is really great, and we'll talk about the score. And why don't we just take a look at the scene first? So that's by John Williams. I should back up a little bit because originally George Lucas wanted pre-existing music, very much like Kubrick did with 2001. That he used classical music, he used Strauss, he used composers that had already passed away, and that's what Lucas supposedly wanted. There's many stories, conflicting stories, but from what I could gather from research, he wanted that. So he wanted John Williams to help him, as a consultant. But John Williams instead wrote him a terrific score. Of course, John Williams was fresh off the first blockbuster, which was Jaws, right, 1975. So this is, that was a few years ago, and he won the Oscar for that. So we think of John Williams being huge today too, and he is. But back then he was just a working composer, and that Spielberg said, "Hey, my friend John Williams, George Lucas, you guys want to talk and meet?" And they did, and he wrote music for this that that everyone knows. It's one of the most famous scores of all time. But this scene in particular is hilarious, right? Because what does it sound like? It's swing music, right? I mean, this is why I like to mix up all the classes to see, all music kind of comes back to a source. Bach, all those things. We've done classes on Duke Ellington, the king of swing, Glenn Miller. We've talked about these guys, Tommy Dorsey and Artie Shaw. We didn't do a class on Benny Goodman, but we've talked about Benny Goodman. But this is 1930s swing music. What's that doing in a 1977 space opera thing? He really wanted him to make it sound like space alien jazz music. That's what it sounds like. I mean, but it's got trumpets, saxophones, clarinets, a Rhodes piano, and a Caribbean steel drum, and then a synthesizer and another drum, and then a lot of reverb to make it sound, futuristic, alien-like. It's got such a great tune. mostly, you know, it sounds a lot like Sing 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 by Benny Goodman, which I've played in several classes, but see if you can hear the influence that John Williams got from, this is actually a Louis Prima song, but just take a listen to this. Sounds very close to the John Williams, right? I mean, you know, it sounds like obviously he was influenced by this, because as we know, John Williams started off as a, you know, a jazz pianist pretty much in New York. So the scene is just so much fun. So why don't we take a look, sans music, just without anything. Could be so weird, huh? I mean, with dark, scary music, it could sound like a whole different scene, because the scene with the music is quirky, fun, jazz, you know, jazz-like swing music. Yeah, let's make it that. Let's stay in that realm. You know, if we did thrasher, slasher music, you could do that, but that all of a sudden doesn't make it a light movie, you know, a nice, you know, Disney-like movie. And George Lucas wanted to go in that direction. I mean, it's a PG movie. It's very appropriate for all audiences. So don't do Sing Sing Sing, because I already played that as an example. But something in that realm of that John Williams was, I think, would be terrific. So get that in me tomorrow. And this was a lot of fun talking about Star Wars. Hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow's going to be, we're gonna do some rock and roll this week, if that's okay. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, have a great rest of the day, and see you tomorrow. Bye.